Oh. Hello, everyone. How are we doing? How is everyone? JB, Sally, Antonio, you're already here. I know. I know. I know. Please be back here and not on the other channel. That's very true. See, I could be in London with Tomo. Although I don't think they do qualifying. I think the last lap just do races, don't they? But I've also made some updates to the stream, so it should run smooth today. But of course, those little updates to begin with, I have to just double check. Just double check. Free practice was very interesting, though. Max Verstappen, Charles Leclerc, Lewis Hamilton, all very, very close to one another. Sergio Perez also showing a little bit of pace, which hasn't been a regular occurrence recently. Don't mean to be nasty about Sergio in any way, but I don't know, I just wasn't expecting it from him. I thought it might be another weekend where he struggled just a little bit. Ooh, Stockport. Hello, Ian, mate. Didn't rate them at all. Wow. I feel like the last lap it misses out on a little bit of the data that I quite like. Like, I just had no idea who was on what tires and when. Like, it's lovely to have a chat to all the other people, but I don't know how their overlays and stuff work. So they just didn't quite have the data that I wanted. We had to go off the Sky stuff, and it was just like, guys over at Multiviewer, bada bing, bada boom, there it is. Just offer more. Just offer more. Cannot talk highly enough of Multiviewer, to be honest. They have been exceptional addition to the stream itself. Also feels weird to be, like, it's a very late Friday night feeling. You know what I mean? Like, I just had pizza, just had dinner, had a little relax, and then it's like, nope, back into it. But I suppose that is the universe of Formula One that we live in. Data was very weird. I don't actually know what data they have up for you. Like, I can't see the stream when I'm on last lap. All I can see is like which camera they're on. So there's 5 cameras in front of us. Obviously, the wide shot, which shows all 4 of us, and then the individual cameras. And all I can see is whether I'm on or not. Like, there's a little red light above my camera. So I know that if that red light is on, I need to be talking because they've literally focused in on me. But apart from that, I can't really see anything else. Do I live stream it? I'm away from my TV, so this is all I could find. I mean, I'll live stream all of the data. I'll let you know everything that's happening, but I can't show the cars on the track. I can't show the cars on the track because that is illegal in every single possible way. You unfortunately have to pay for that privilege. And I do not have the money to buy TV rights for Formula One. Imagine one day, you know, maybe if the channel skyrockets, we got like Sidemen or Mr. Beast money, I'll purchase some TV rights and I'll live stream it just here for you. How weird would that be? Just one guy in his bedroom, just literally everyone watching Formula One has just got to view me in an office in the middle of nowhere with a Singapore track on the back. Sounds good to me. Thank you, Victoria. Appreciate it. Thanks for stopping by. I'm glad I could be the stopgap until you at least get back to your TV screen. But yeah, lovely to see some predictions for this as well. The people are very high on Lewis Hamilton this weekend. To be honest, I was a little bit skeptical. Just because the Mercedes car doesn't really suit the ebbs and flows that we have with the Austin track, I was a little bit worried that the Mercedes car wouldn't be able to deal with the bumps too much. And because they had a new floor coming, I was like, one free practice session to get that floor really kicked in. Will that work? I wasn't unsure. But now, after one free practice session, Lewis Hamilton's looking bang on it once again. And all of a sudden, my views have to change. In fact, I could probably show you the results from free practice for anyone that didn't catch it. Because look at this board. Look at this free practice board. I mean, apart from the fact that McLaren are absolutely nowhere and Aston Martin have fallen off a cliff, which I'm not too happy about, the rest of it is beautiful. Like, imagine this as our starting grid. I'd buzz for that. Kevin Magnussen in 5th place. Haas have found it. And also, Kevin Magnussen out of nowhere, right? Because if Haas found it, I would have bet my life that if Haas found pace, it would be Nico Hulkenberg that extracted it out of the car. No, we have Kevin Magnussen absolutely flying. Both of the Mercedes way higher than I thought. Like, already my predictions absolutely in the bin, because I just thought both of those teams, because they were bringing upgrades, might struggle with the lack of practice time this weekend. But no, both of them straight out of the blocks. The new Haas, by the way, I know that they've got their special livery this weekend. I'm not 100% sold on the livery. Like, I get it. I think it's a little bit clustered. But the Haas car, the actual car itself, looks great. Like, I've seen a few pictures of the side pods down to the rear end, and it looks very Red Bull, which is a massive positive for anybody on the grid this year. But it feels like they've also been able to work in the Ferrari gearbox quite nicely, which is where Ferrari really struggle, is that they can't have the same swoosh that we see on the Red Bull towards the rear end, in the way that the rear of the side pod dips down towards the diffuser. They can't quite have that because of the way that the gearbox is situated in the Ferrari this year. But Haas have found like a nice little workaround for that. And I think Haas are kind of moving in the right direction. What happened to McLaren? Just not a lot of pace. I think maybe they were trying to find a little bit of a setup tweak. I hope they were trying to find a little bit of a setup tweak. Make it for channel members only. Make yourself a money-making machine. That's very true. It's very true. If I made the live streams for members only, then effectively you're just paying a Sky subscription, but it's only like £3 rather than 20 quid a month or whatever my Sky subscription is. That Haas looking absolutely sensational. Verstappen, Perez looking good. Hamilton looking good. Leclerc coming back to life. I was a little bit, well, if you guys haven't seen it, I did a stream earlier on today. Thank you, Victoria. I appreciate the subscription. But if you didn't see the stream earlier on today, I did my predictions for the final 5 races of the season. I did 5 big predictions. They were Hamilton versus Perez. They were McLaren versus Aston Martin, Ferrari versus Mercedes. I also did 4th through 8th in the driver's standings. So Fernando Alonso to George Russell, who was going to come out on top of who there. And obviously the Ferraris in there as well. I talked really closely about Sainz versus Leclerc. And I also talked about the bottom 4, 7th through 10th. In the constructor standings and who I thought would come in where in that. So if you haven't checked out that stream, that was very, very fun to do earlier on today. I got your guys' opinion. I got my opinion. We kind of mixed it all together to see what we thought in terms of predictions for the final 5 races. I won't spoil too much of that just in case people want to watch it, but I will be talking about that in more detail tomorrow because we've got 2 sprint races, sprint qualifying and a sprint race to cover as well. So if you haven't checked out that prediction stream, make sure you do before tomorrow because I will talk about it in a little bit more detail. I'm just going to check that this is working correctly. Can I see the chat? Yes. Oh, there we go. Yeah, this looks beautiful. So I've set up this slightly differently in that now everything is in boxes, slightly separated, adds a little bit more detail. We can add the track map. Bang. Lovely. We can also add transcriptions from the radio. That's there as well. Okay, we're there. We're bada bing, bada boom. We're set for qualifying with a little bit of a graphic update / multi-viewer update. Again, thank you so much to the guys at Multi-Viewer. If you haven't checked out Multi-Viewer, download it on all of your devices. Gives you all of the data that you need to follow the race. You can also watch the races from a singular driver's perspective. So if you've got a favorite driver, whether you're a Max Verstappen fan, an Alex Albon fan, you can get involved all the time. Thank you, Shane, for the subscription. And also, I just have to say thank you to all of you, like the absolute OGs. I know you're in the chat. You're constantly here. I absolutely love you. And I really hope that like we can just continue to build on this, because it's just so nice to have a chat to you guys whilst watching the Formula One. As a kid, I'd get up. I remember there's like a distinct memory in my mind when I was like 10 years old. I remember getting up and watching the Canadian Grand Prix. It was at like 3 a.m. or something ridiculous, because they'd moved the race backwards and it was really early in the morning. And I just remember I was like the only person I knew that got up. You know what I mean? Like Formula One is so different now. It's much bigger sport. There's so many more fans, but it's just so nice to have this with you guys. And I absolutely love it as we see Max Verstappen getting into his car. We've got Charles Leclerc with a lovely green helmet this weekend as well. I think it's an American football call. Yeah, it's American football, right? It's got the little yard lines on there. But a very, very nice little green helmet. And the green helmet goes very well with the red Ferrari car. It's just so good. Thank you, Jamie. Appreciate it. I'm trying to work as hard as I possibly can. We're getting there. We're definitely getting there. I'm finding a rhythm with it at the minute. Finding a real rhythm with it, where every single video it just feels like I'm getting there. You know what I mean? But we are getting ready and raring to go for qualifying. The cars are making their way to the end of the pit lane, and we're about to see 20 cars whittled down to 15. 18 minutes to prove you can be the fastest. And we're underway. We've got some Alpines coming out. We've got a Williams, actually, out on track first, and then an Alpine just behind. Sargent and Gasly are going to kick us off on the soft compound tyre. Zhou Guanyu also joining them in the Alfa Romeo. Valtteri Bottas behind. Be interesting to see what Alfa Romeo can do. They looked really good in Qatar. Really, really solid in Qatar, Alfa Romeo. It felt like their upgrade from Singapore really clicked in Qatar. And we'll have to see whether that continues or whether Williams and Haas can kind of come back at them. Obviously, Alfa Romeo now ahead of Haas in the constructors standings. If you're comparing, Nico Hulkenberg and Kevin Magnussen to Bottas and Zhou, I think Hulkenberg has had the best season out of those four, but I also think Kevin Magnussen's probably had the worst season out of those four, and then the Bottas and Zhou are kind of in the middle. Bottas having a slightly better season than Zhou. I mean, I effectively have just said the driver's standings, haven't I? Like, Bottas is 1 point ahead of Nico Hulkenberg, although I feel like Nico Hulkenberg has had the better season compared to the Finn. Just, Q1 should be split into 2 groups. How would that work? How would you get there? Should we pop up some sector timings? Won't mean too much, really, until we fully get going, but worth having the data in front of us whilst we are here. And actually, we can have a little look at the track map. Tyres on target for Sector 1, Zhou Guanyu. Can I remind signal gears, good braking in the end. Okay. Interesting. But you can see Logan Sargent is about to kick us underway. Pierre Gasly just behind. The Bottas Zhou factor for Alfa Romeo coming through turn 19 now. Let's see then. Logan Sargent, what have you got? The American driver on the circuit of the Americas, the second of 3 US Grand Prix. Of course, the penultimate race of the season happening in Las Vegas this year. Be very interesting. On a Saturday night as well, late on a Saturday night for us. That'll be a very fun stream indeed. Logan Sargent purple in the first sector, as you'd imagine. But Pierre Gasly just behind, and we'll see where the Alpine slots in comparison to the Williams. So much pressure on Logan Sargent, though, this weekend. So important that he picks up a result just coming towards the end of the second sector. Love this setup. Thank you, Sally. Worked on it all day. No, I just wanted to make sure that it was sectioned off quite nicely. But we'll continue to develop it. And then in for 2024, with a punch. One car per team in each group. Oh, that would be interesting, Antonio, actually. Because then you'd have to think about which driver from your team you want to send out first, which driver from your team you have to run second. I do think there should be more kind of team decisions in Formula One. Because, like, as much as... Oh, Logan Sargent coming back into the pits without actually finishing that flying lap. So Logan Sargent not going to complete a flying lap in this one. Straight back into the pits and to the Williams garage. Interesting what's gone on there. I'd love to know what happened to Logan Sargent. Can I see box and offset me up, he says. Interesting. Yeah, nothing on the radio from Logan Sargent as to any kind of issues that I can see. Okay, you go in, keep pushing corners, go in. First car, pushing behind a left. Interesting. Nothing that I can see on my little radio tracker. Nothing from Logan Sargent. Interesting. Sergio Perez on a lap now. Charles Leclerc comes across the line at 1:36.6. Lando Norris just slower, but in the same realms. And then Oscar Piastri a couple attempts off that. Much better from Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri compared to free practice so far, at least. Bottas and Zhou now split by Carlos Sainz in the Ferrari. Gasly and Ocon just behind. And then Lance Stroll is the last driver to have set a full lap time. A 1:38.5 though from the Aston Martin. Sergio Perez is going around. Where is Sergio Perez? Just coming through turn 12 and 13. Just trying to make his way past Bottas and Zhou on their in-laps. But a solid middle sector from Sergio Perez. I think that's purple. It is indeed. Sergio Perez quickest in the middle sector of anybody. Lando Norris currently fastest in the third sector. And let's see if Sergio Perez can take that away from him. Interesting that Valtteri Bottas lost a lot of time in that final sector. You can see Valtteri Bottas third fastest in the first and second sectors, although Max Verstappen's just completed the first sector, so takes that away from him. Sergio Perez only fourth fastest in that final sector. Is that the Red Bull or is that just Sergio Perez? We'll have to wait and see because Max Verstappen has gone quickest in the first sector of anybody. And actually, Sergio Perez was 8th fastest in the first sector. Here we go then. Lewis Hamilton winding up to start his first flying lap. Lewis Hamilton comes around turn 20 and across the line to start his first flying lap then. All eyes on Max Verstappen. Verstappen actually a couple of attempts slower than Sergio. Ooh, Lewis Hamilton a little bit out of shape in turn 1. Just pushed that Mercedes a touch too hard down that pit straight. And it just didn't quite stick for the Mercedes. It's going to be a poor first sector from Lewis Hamilton. That's not terrible. It's about a 10th down. It's not the worst first sector in the world. 5th fastest in terms of the first sector, Lewis Hamilton. But could have been so much better. Max Verstappen sets the standard then and goes fastest of anybody with a 1:36.4. But actually only dominant in the first sector. Sergio Perez and Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri in that third sector. I actually thought the first sector was going to be where McLaren had the edge because they were so quick in the first sector of Suzuka, and Suzuka has a very similar first sector to Austin, kind of some wiggly S-curves effectively. So I thought Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri would be right up there in the first sector, but now we're seeing actually currently in the third sector is where they've really got it, kind of the slower speed third sector as opposed to the slightly higher speed. Which team am I with? I mean, I'm not with a team, but I do support McLaren. They're my papaya boys. Lando Norris is going to win a race in these last 5, and he's going to finish 4th in the standings. I predict Lando Norris to have 210 points. 210 points. So I'm going to go for. Write this down now. Daniel Ricciardo's one that we haven't talked about yet. Obviously back in the car for this weekend. And Lewis Hamilton, not really the lap he'd have wanted. George Russell quicker of the Mercedes car, slots himself in third place. Although Russell and Hamilton both really quick in the middle sector. Russell also really quick in the third sector as well. But really poor first sector from George Russell. Considering Lewis Hamilton completely overshot turn one. Didn't do too bad in the first sector overall. Oh, and then Lewis Hamilton, a real snap through the final sector as well. Aston Martin's Lance Stroll in. And a really weird pit stop from Lance Stroll. Smoke coming off the wheel guns for him there. As Lance Stroll comes in for a change of tyres. Nico Hülkenberg, excuse me, has just gone fastest in the middle sector. Nico Hülkenberg is on something today. He's coming around the final sector. Just coming through turn 19 now is Nico. Round the final corner then. What's Hülkenberg going to do here? Is he going to get towards Max Verstappen? Yes, he is. Yes, he is. A 136.2 for Nico Hülkenberg. Hello. What on earth? Kevin Magnussen comes around. Not quite vintage from Kevin Magnussen. 12th place for him. Nico Hülkenberg with provisional pole and 8 minutes to go in this Q1 session. Have Haas become ridiculously quick overnight? Absolutely love it. I know that they were actually really careful with this upgrade package, Haas. They talked about it earlier on in the season. They were set for almost like a standard upgrade package. They were ready to bring upgrades fairly regularly throughout the season, were Haas. But actually, they decided against that. They thought, okay, this Ferrari philosophy that we're working off of isn't the one. So rather than keep upgrading that and find the pivot, Pierre Gasly has just done a 136.1. Where are these people finding these track times? Logan Sargent has just had a lap time deleted for track limits at turn 12. So Kevin Magnussen, Nico Hülkenberg, sorry. They said themselves, they were like, okay, we have to kind of deal with the fact that we're going to have pretty poor performance for the next 8 or 9 races. And it was like, maybe these upgrades will come in Austin and maybe they'll come further. And I think the fact that they left it until Austin is actually a massive positive for Haas moving forwards. Because this kind of shift, it can't be rushed. It's a bit like McLaren. McLaren did that as well. They came into the season. They were like, look, we know that we haven't quite got this right now. And we're not going to rush it. We're going to wait until Austria. We're not going to try and bring upgrades in like 3-4 races into the season. They were like, no, we're going to wait until we're back in Europe. We can do it properly. And actually, it's paid off massively for McLaren in the last 9 races because they've jumped from last in the constructor standings when they didn't score a point for the first 2 races of the season to now looking like they're going to be the 4th fastest and then break into the top 3 in 2022. And I think Haas have gone through a similar process, and that's why I'm really, really impressed with them. And I'm very, very impressed with Nico Hülkenberg in 2nd place. Obviously, the track is going to evolve a little bit. It's going to get quicker and quicker, but Carlos Sainz is now coming around in the Ferrari, just finishing his middle sector. Carlos Sainz quickest in the 1st sector. How's his 2nd sector time? Also quickest. Going to jump to the top of that 2nd sector chart. Carlos Sainz is suddenly on it. Remember, the man who was on pole position last year in Austin got taken out at turn 1 by George Russell. Is Carlos Sainz also turned up to the party? We're looking, these last 5 races are so good. These last 5 races are set up to be so entertaining because Ferrari are really finding their pace. Mercedes have brought all of their upgrades. Everybody else has brought all their upgrades. Carlos Sainz has just put in a 135.8 and is absolutely flying. Suddenly, Alex Albon in the Williams, who we were waxing lyrical about for the last 10 races, 16th, not even in the top 15. He's obviously got another chance. We've got 4 and nearly 5 minutes left to go in this session. But Nobody out on track at the moment setting a lap time. We've got Carlos Sainz coming back in, Charles Leclerc coming back in. Verstappen and Perez. Verstappen and Perez have gone a little bit early. I can show you the track board. Verstappen and Perez currently the two out on track that are just pushing a little bit more. In fact, actually, whilst I'm here, I'm going to just change this a touch so that we can see a little bit more of the radio. Let's just bump that to 80. Bang. Done. Okay. But as you can see, Sergio Perez, Max Verstappen, the only two coming around now. Going early for their laps by the looks of things. Delete Red Bull this season, it'd be absolutely gold. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. He's absolutely flying. Take this grid. Be an interesting one. Gasly and Hulkenberg on the second row. Would be very interesting to see. Lance Stroll would absolutely take this grid right now. 7th place with Fernando Alonso in 14th. A weekend where he might actually beat his teammate. I think the Canadian would rip your hand off if you offered him this starting position right now. George Russell in 8th. Lando Norris in 9th. Piastri just behind him in 10th. The two McLarens just are not separated by anything, are they? Whenever you see Lando Norris's name, Oscar Piastri is always within touching distance. It's really, really impressive from the Australian this year. Max Verstappen is about to start his flying lap and is gonna come up against quite a bit of traffic. There's a lot of drivers coming out of the pits now, obviously, because they need to do their opening lap. It's quite a long lap around here, you know, a 135.8 from Carlos Sainz, currently the quickest, but it's a 130 plus lap. You're sort of looking at nearly a 2-minute out lap. So a lot of these cars coming out now. Oscar Piastri just making his way out of the pits. I think Ocon and Gasly are going to be last out with the Aston Martins in between the Alpines. Max Verstappen goes quickest in the first sector, though, and Sergio Perez also just joins him second fastest in that first sector. We can see that George Russell now the slowest man in the first sector overall. Logan Sargent, then predictably maybe, also at the bottom of the second and third sector. Lewis Hamilton right towards the bottom of the third sector there as well. So the Mercedes not quite hooking up the entire lap between them. More to come from them in 8th and 12th right now, but Max Verstappen's the one that we are watching. Not amazing for the middle sector. Second fastest to Carlos Sainz. You expect Max Verstappen to pretty much be purple everywhere, but Carlos Sainz just about holding on to the advantage. Carlos Sainz actually not very quick through the final sector in comparison. 5th fastest overall. You'd imagine Max Verstappen will be able to find a little bit of time on the Ferrari through this final sector. Does, and really sets the standard, a 135.3 from Max Verstappen. And Carlos Sainz isn't coming out. We have just seen. So 19 drivers on the track. Max Verstappen sets his lap and will be more than comfortable with that getting him through. Lewis Hamilton goes second fastest in the first sector. Alex Albon also on an absolute flyer of a first sector as well. Lewis Hamilton about to come to turn 12 and finish the second sector. Where is he going to slot in? Goes fastest in the middle sector, does Lewis Hamilton. And this is looking a lot more like it from the Mercedes man. This is good. This is good. This is just good. They're the words I want. This is good from Lewis Hamilton in that middle sector. Alex Albon also with a fairly decent middle sector as well. 10th fastest. Remember, you just need to not be in the bottom 15. Yuki Tsunoda currently the driver at risk as Lewis Hamilton almost becomes the man to break into the 134s. A 135.0 from the Mercedes man. Alex Albon, as I said, was going pretty well. Slots himself into 8th place. George Russell currently in 11th is going to come across the line. Is even going to improve just about. Yes, goes 7th fastest and takes the checkered flag. But Logan Sargent, 14th fastest from Logan Sargent. Out of the bottom 5 just, but there's still a lot of those drivers, in fact, all of those drivers to come across the line. Lando Norris, 2nd fastest in the McLaren with a purple final sector from Lando Norris and an also exceptionally quick middle sector as well. Max Verstappen are pretty slow in the middle sector by his standards. Zhou Guanyu, 6th fastest, sorry. The Chinese driver really finding that Alfa Romeo, and Logan Sargent on the bubble right now looks under a lot of pressure. Daniel Ricciardo comes back from injury. Is he going to be able to do it? Yes, Daniel Ricciardo 11th fastest, although Kevin Magnussen also gets himself out of danger by going 6th fastest. Bottas in for 9th. So suddenly Stroll and Piastri have dropped down in there. Fernando Alonso also in the mix. Yuki Tsunoda goes 5th fastest, gets himself out of danger, and Alex Albon is now the driver at risk because Oscar Piastri jumps up into 10th place and Alex Albon drops into the bottom 16. Ocon and Alonso still to come. Ocon across the line, 12th fastest. That drops Nico Hülkenberg out of it. Can Alonso do better and drop? Oh, both of the Aston Martins fall. Wow. An upgrade to the Aston Martin floor and their worst qualifying of the season. That has to be. Fernando Alonso, 17th place, and Lance Stroll, 19th. Both of the Aston Martins out in Q1. And it just goes from bad to worse if you're wearing green. Nico Hülkenberg, also surprisingly outdone by his teammate by a considerable margin, is out in 16th place. And then both of the Williamses, Alex Albon, Logan Sargent, a poor start to the Williams weekend, unfortunately for them. And, wow. What do you do if you're Aston Martin here? The season is just falling apart for the Aston Martin garage. Lance Stroll on the radio. Both cars out indeed. And not too much Lance Stroll can really say about that, is there? It's become fairly commonplace for Lance Stroll. Fernando Alonso is the man I'm interested to see. Fernando Alonso straight away just asked for the Delta. Just asked for the Delta straight away. Needs to know where he's going. And Daniel Ricciardo back for this weekend in the AlphaTauri and sneaks through to Q2. So we can have a little bit of a look then. Where did it go wrong for Fernando Alonso? The final... Wow. Not really anywhere. First sector, 15th fastest. Second sector, 15th fastest. Third sector, 17th fastest. So Fernando Alonso not really pushing the boat out in any of the sectors, to be honest with you. You know, if he was 15th fastest in all of those sectors, he still probably wouldn't have made it through. Kevin Magnussen was an absolute flyer. Where did it go wrong for Nico Hülkenberg then? First sector. Yeah, because Nico Hülkenberg, quicker than his teammate, in the middle and final sector. So all of that time lost for Nico Hülkenberg in that first sector, and that was the only thing that really did the difference. Because actually, if you look at the gap between Nico Hülkenberg and Kevin Magnussen, it's only 0.2 of a second. So there's 0.2 between 7th and 16th. So it's pretty tight, the field right now. Like Hamilton, Norris, Verstappen kind of in their own realm. Carlos Sainz didn't come out again, so saved himself a set of tyres. I think that's very intelligent from Carlos Sainz, especially on a sprint weekend. I do like that from Carlos Sainz. I think he's kind of taken the initiative there. But then if you look at that, so Yuki Tsunoda down to Alex Albon is only 0.4 of a second. So it's very, very tight. But yeah, Lance Stroll massively off, unfortunately. 3/4 off Daniel Ricciardo. Yeah. Lance Stroll, where was he? 18th fastest. And he was pretty much 18th fastest in all the sectors, wasn't he? 17th fastest in the middle sector. Mercedes looking really fast with that new upgrade. Massively underestimated that new upgrade from my perspective. I genuinely thought it might be quite tricky. for them to get that right after one free practice session. But you know what? In the hands of Lewis Hamilton in particular, that upgrade just looks divine. It's like he's got so much balance through that middle sector. It is unreal. I know he overcooked it on the first corner. Ooh. Yeah, Nico Hulkenberg not happy at all. It was that first sector, although both of the Hasses in the first sector not really there. Fernando Alonso just being told to stay in the car in case there is any track limits infringements. I mean, you're not even 16th fastest, Fernando. I wouldn't worry about it too much. But qualifying 2. Oh, it's the wheel guns making all that smoke. Weird little puffs of smoke coming out of the wheel guns for Aston Martin. But there we have it. Q1 ticked off. As you can see, Hulkenberg, Alonso, Albon, Stroll, and Sargent now grayed out at the bottom of our graphic. They are going to be in that order come Sunday. And we're going to look in the next 15 minutes for our next 5 drivers. Bottas, Ocon, Gasly, Russell, and Ricciardo. The 5 that will be at danger most after that Q1 session. But they have an opportunity now in Q2 to rectify that situation. Lewis Hamilton fastest in that section. And we'll be looking to take advantage and possibly get his first win since the 2021 season. Wow. It's been a little while for Lewis Hamilton, hasn't it? What, nearly 40 Grand Prix since his last victory in Formula 1, which is absolutely alien to anybody who watched Formula 1 in the mid sort of teens. Absolutely dominant from 2014 onwards was Lewis Hamilton. The only person that ever really caused him any kind of headache was Nico Rosberg, snatching a championship in 2016. And now it's been nearly 2 full seasons since we have seen Lewis Hamilton take a victory. Will Austin this weekend be the opportunity to do so? Piastri had any issue with his lap? Not from what I can see, but Piastri really slow in the middle sector. I don't know whether he had a little bit of a mistake. There wasn't anything that came up on the radio from what I could see from Oscar Piastri on that. Hello, Anthony. I'm new. I love your vids. Thank you very much, mate. Appreciate it. Thank you for stopping by. Get involved in the chat. Lovely, lovely people. And all the data that you could possibly want. Thanks to the guys over at Multiviewer. We are underway for Q2, I should say. Charles Leclerc, Carlos Sainz coming out now. Lewis Hamilton, George Russell, Oscar Piastri also getting involved. I'll show you the quick track map whilst we're waiting for some times. But you can see the Ferrari's out first. The Mercedes just behind. The McLaren's coming out too. Everyone coming out 2 by 2. But Kevin Magnussen all on his own in the Haas. Nico Hulkenberg knocked out in 16th place. I'll get the number right eventually. In 16th place. And here comes the Red Bull of Max Verstappen, Joe and Bottas, both Alfa Romeos through. It's not something we see overly often over the course of this season. Max has his 50th race win so far. Is it 50 already? Wow. No. It can't be 50 yet, can it? Because I thought by the end of the season... How many did Vettel have? 53. Oh, yeah, maybe. He can get above Sebastian Vettel in the all-time win list by the end of this season, can Max Verstappen, which just seems crazy. He would be the 3rd most... Ooh, as we see... The Ferrari's coming across the line. He would be the 3rd most decorated driver in history, Max Verstappen, once he overtakes Sebastian Vettel for the 3rd most wins. Obviously, Lewis Hamilton and Michael Schumacher up in 1st and 2nd place in that standing, but still very, very impressive. for Max Verstappen to already be the third best driver, or third most decorated, shouldn't say best, third most decorated driver in Formula One history. Charles Leclerc then is going to get us underway in the Ferrari. Carlos Sainz, his teammate, just behind. And let's see what the Ferraris are going to set the benchmark as. Very interesting. Thank you, annoying dude. Cool. Charles Leclerc through the middle sector. Although Max Verstappen quickest in that first sector. Lando Norris quickest in the first sector, but not improving on their times from Q1 at this moment. Max Verstappen still the best first sector time overall, I should say. Charles Leclerc then making his way towards the line. And a 135.8. Not too bad from Charles Leclerc as an opening gambit. Much better than Carlos Sainz, by the looks of things. Carlos Sainz, a little bit slower, a 136.2. And yeah, they are, used tyres. Just pointed that out in Sky. But as you can see there, Charles Leclerc, 8 laps on those soft compound tyres, whereas Lewis Hamilton comes across the line. Also on a used set of soft compound tyres. Goes a 135.7. George Russell, 0.02 of a second quicker than his teammate. Goes quickest in the final sector for this session. But again, you can see the lap times in terms of best sector times overall not really changing. A lot of these guys on very used tyres. Oscar Piastri not on used tyres. Goes for a 135.5. And George Russell also there. Oh, Lando Norris with a lap time deleted. That is not good news for Lando Norris at all. Anthony Lee, I'm going to sub. Thank you, Anthony. I appreciate it. There should be a little graphic for if you sub. Actually, I don't know if I put the graphic on this page. There should be a little graphic on this page if you sub. Mercedes are absolutely flying. Pierre Gasly, though, also fine. Pierre Gasly looks good. That's a couple of times now that I've been very impressed with Pierre Gasly, although he is on a fresh set of soft compound tyres. Max Verstappen still quickest on a used set of soft compound tyres. So just to the right-hand side of the sector times, you can see the laps that have been done on that set of tyres for the driver. You can see a lot of fresh tyres going on for Piastri and Gasly and Russell. Hamilton, though, on used tyres. Esteban Ocon in third place. Sergio Perez jumps up into fifth. I think that's a used set for Sergio Perez. No, that was a fresh set. Soft compound tyres for Sergio Perez as well. Alpine has upgrades, and not like not huge ones. Stroll getting out of Q1. Yeah, unfortunately, Maxi, that is just not something that you see anymore. Lance Stroll just doesn't really get out of Q1. It's not his vibe. Carlos Sainz on board. I think. Oh. Yuki Tsunoda turned 15. That's where Carlos Sainz lost quite a chunk of time then, and why he's all the way down in 14th place right now. Lewis is pretty good at this track. That is very true. He is very, very quick around here. As I said, though, I was just a little bit worried that Mercedes wouldn't quite be able to get it done in terms of getting their upgrade and then getting the car set up for this track, whilst also only having one free practice session. But actually, they look like they've nailed it in terms of Lewis Hamilton anyway. Oh. Can you feel it's getting late? Little sip of water to wake myself up. So everyone's done a lap now. Halfway through this Q2 session. Nothing ridiculously quick thus far. I think everybody's kind of keeping a little bit in reserve, just getting that banker lap in. But also quite a few of the top drivers, you know, your Lando Norris's, your Carlos Sainz, your Charles Leclerc's, kind of in a little bit of trouble right now. The guys that you'd think are pretty much guaranteed a top 10 spot, looking a little bit shaky right now, the Ferraris. Not the fastest of flying laps from them, although both on very used soft compound tyres in comparison to the rest of the field. So everybody with 3 laps on those tyres, it means that they did an out lap and then a fast lap and then an in lap. So they are very fresh tyres. Stroll likes to pass cars on track. He's true driver. That is a good point, Anne. That is a great point. To be fair, didn't he win? Did he win the overtakes last year? Or was that Sebastian Vettel? Anthony Lee with this subscription. Thank you, mate. Appreciate it. I can't remember if it was Lance Stroll or Sebastian Vettel last year that got the most overtakes, which effectively just means you qualified bad, right? Like, if you're getting the most overtakes in an entire season, it just means you didn't qualify overly well. Like, the reason that Max Verstappen doesn't have very many overtakes is because he's just in the lead all the time. So, you don't need the overtakes if you're just quick. Ooh. Lando Norris. Little bit of traffic. That's where it went wrong. Just a distraction from Lando. I think Lando Norris is still in a little bit of his own head. See you later, Anthony. Thank you for dropping by. I think Lando Norris still just in a little bit of his own head here. Still just a little bit, like, not 100% there is Lando Norris. Because, like, there's a car on the inside, yes. But he shouldn't be that distracted as to completely lose it through turn 19. And effectively cost himself a set of tyres there. Because he didn't get a lap in. And the tyres were fresh on. So, tricky for Lando Norris. Here we go then. I'm imagining we're going to see some proper lap times now. Everyone's got their banker lap in. 4 minutes to go. Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz out on track for Ferrari are going to go first by the looks of things. Max Verstappen, Lando Norris now making their way out of the pits. I can just show you where the cars are in particular. You can see Charles Leclerc really going early in terms of wanting to get his lap time in. Maybe he wants to go for a couple of laps. Charles Leclerc, you wouldn't expect that, though, on a fresh set of soft compound tyres. You'd imagine just the 3 laps, as I said, that kind of in-out from Charles Leclerc would be the way forward for him. But Carlos Sainz just behind, Verstappen, Norris, Kevin Magnussen, Daniel Ricciardo's there as well. Zhou Guanyu, Yuki Tsunoda, Valtteri Bottas coming out on track to get into their flying laps. Two Ferraris are out a little bit earlier, as Pierre Gasly is told on the radio. Sergio Perez trying to find a little bit of a gap. And here we go then. Charles Leclerc, currently 9th fastest, and is going to set his flying lap in that Ferrari. Let's have a little look at the sector times as they come in for Carlos Sainz and Charles Leclerc then. The two Ferraris. 6th fastest Charles Leclerc in terms of the best first sector that we've seen in qualifying so far. Why don't I provide footage of the race? Because that is, yeah, super illegal. I know it would make it more interesting. I'd love to be able to show you the Grand Prix qualifying, but that is unfortunately illegal. You're not allowed to just stream live sporting events. Carlos Sainz, fastest in the first sector in terms of this qualifying session, just slightly behind the best that we saw from Max Verstappen in Q1. But Charles Leclerc also with a really good middle sector. 3rd fastest of anybody we've seen so far today and fastest in this second qualifying session. So the Ferrari of Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz looking a lot better. They're going to set the standard, as we're now seeing some other drivers starting their final flying laps, you'd imagine. Still a minute and a bit to go in this session, but I imagine this will be it from Charles Leclerc. Does have enough time to go around again if he wants, but no, does not. Pulls off and half a second clear. Max Verstappen, an electric final sector from Charles Leclerc, puts him top of the standings right now. Carlos Sainz hasn't been vintage. Second fastest, through the first sector. Fifth fastest through the middle sector. Maybe, yeah, 3/10 off his teammate. Didn't think it was quite at the level of Charles Leclerc. But Carlos Sainz, not too bad at all. Reduces that deficit to his teammate. And also just jumps up first and second place for Ferrari. Imagine that will see them through into Q3, especially because Yuki Tsunoda now coming around. Daniel Ricciardo, the Alpha Tauris, you imagine will not be as quick as that Ferrari time. Bottas and Zhou Guanyu have also got a little eye on. Interesting for them, just because I don't really talk about Alfa Romeo that much. I do feel quite bad for Alfa Romeo a lot of the time, in that whenever I make an Alfa Romeo video, it does just flop. Like, nobody really wants to talk about Alfa Romeo. So a little bit disappointing for them, but Max Verstappen across the line. Second fast, 4 thousandths of a second. Max Verstappen. Although Lewis Hamilton absolutely flying by the looks of things in that first sector. And Zhou Guanyu, oh, it's a little bit slow from Zhou in the middle sector. I think he's next across the line. And Zhou, 9th fastest. So it's not quite... I don't think that's going to be enough for Zhou Guanyu. Unfortunately, Yuki Tsunoda comes across the line in 9th place. So Tsunoda already outdoing Zhou. Valtteri Bottas, not good enough, goes into 13th fastest. And Hamilton and Russell, actually, the two Mercedes in 11th and 12th place, both need to improve. All eyes on Kevin Magnussen as well. Where's Kevin Magnussen? Currently coming through turns 7 and 8. So Kevin Magnussen's going to be a little while before we see his full flying lap. Lewis Hamilton across the line goes 3rd fastest. So does drop Zhou Guanyu into that 11th place by 1,000th of a second to Yuki Tsunoda as well. I didn't see how close that Tsunoda time was to Zhou Guanyu, but both of them then dropped into the bottom 5 as George Russell goes into 9th fastest. And I'll tell you who's in 10th. Sergio Perez, all of a sudden, is under pressure. Esteban Ocon, 5th fastest. That'll be good enough for the Frenchman to get through. His teammate, Pierre Gasly, also in 7th. You'd imagine will be enough as well, depending on how Kevin Magnussen does. Where is Kevin Magnussen's lap time? Oh no, Kevin Magnussen's not on a flying lap. That is it then. Tsunoda, Zhou, Bottas, Magnussen, and Ricciardo. Could you have predicted that? Quite possibly. Of the 15 there in front of you, you'd imagine the Red Bulls get through, the Mercedes, the Ferraris, the the McLarens, the Alpines, not the Aston Martins. So unfortunately, it is the top 5 teams dominating the top 5 positions. Aston Martin falling away quite massively. And that is it for Q2. So Yuki Tsunoda, Zhou Guanyu, Valtteri Bottas, Kevin Magnussen, and Daniel Ricciardo. They're going to join Nico Hülkenberg, Fernando Alonso, Alex Albon, Lance Stroll, and Logan Sargent in their grid positions, confirmed for this 2023 Austin Grand Prix come Sunday. Remember, this is for the race. We will have another qualifying session tomorrow, specifically for the sprint. Do you think Perez will be dropped next year? It depends how competitive the Red Bull is in comparison to everything else. I think if they're still as dominant as they were this year, like if we still see Max Verstappen win like 20 out of 22 races, which, oh, no, you can't quite do that, can you? If we see Max Verstappen win 17 out of 22 races again, then like they won't really mind, especially if Sergio Perez wins a couple of those. But I think if Sergio Perez starts to really cost them in the constructors, say like Ferrari and Mercedes and maybe even McLaren are above Red Bull in the constructor standings after a few races, then it's like, okay, I need to start thinking about this. Why didn't AlphaTauri let Liam finish the season at least? Because Daniel Ricciardo is very, very wanting to get back into that car, I'd imagine. Daniel Ricciardo will be doing everything in his power to try and show that he wants to go in as the Sergio Perez replacement. And basically, Daniel Ricciardo has got 5 races to try and displace Liam Lawson. Because if we look at the driver standings, just very quickly, Liam Lawson is the only AlphaTauri driver other than Yuki Tsunoda to pick up points this year. And remember, AlphaTauri have had 4 drivers. 4 in a season. So Yuki Tsunoda, Liam Lawson, that's kind of the benchmark, I feel like, for Daniel Ricciardo. He's got 5 races. If Daniel Ricciardo can pick up 5 points, should we say 5 points? That would be ridiculously good. And therefore would put him, well above both of these guys in terms of the season. And that's why he doesn't want Liam Lawson to be in the seat, because Liam Lawson's managed to pick up some points. Daniel Ricciardo hasn't managed to pick up some points yet. So Daniel Ricciardo gets to get back in the car, pick up some points, and really get going. Oh, Lance Stroll and Alonso. We're going to hear from Stroll. Let's see. Saying that he felt okay in the car. Obviously, he did miss a free practice. So have to give him a little bit of leeway, but just not the performance there. But optimistic about Sundays, Lance Stroll. I think that's a fair reflection. And then Fernando, little bit of traffic. Yeah, I think the Aston Martin just not quite there this weekend, unfortunately for them. Just both of the Aston Martin drivers at least saying that they felt okay, the car felt okay, but just didn't quite have the pace that was maybe expected, especially with their little upgrade that they've got this weekend. It's not as, we should say that the Aston Martin upgrade isn't as substantial as the Mercedes or Haas upgrades this weekend. But even so, you'd have imagined maybe a little bit of a step forward, especially considering they haven't really been amongst, the fastest cars. They're really, really starting to drop away from Ferrari, Red Bull, Mercedes, McLaren now as well. The Alpines are both through to Q3. Both of the Aston Martins out in Q1. I don't know. Just tough. Just really, really tough for Aston Martin at this moment in time. Be interesting to see where they start 2024. Because I think it could be a little bit of a fall back down to earth, unfortunately, for Aston Martin in 2024, especially if Alpine really do click it together. Alpine with new investment as well, finally getting the money injected into their infrastructure that they need at Alpine. Could be interesting to see where Aston Martin really do come out in all of this once the 2023 season is kind of a wash and we start 2024 and we see kind of where they're really at. How do I watch races? Through Sky Sports. I have a Now TV subscription. First time I'm listening. Good job. Thank you, Ashard. Thank you very much. Oscar going to outqualify Lando. It's going to be close. As I said, whenever you see Lando Norris's name, just like Oscar Piastri's name is always in and around it. They are very, very close to one another. It does feel like every single race, like you can look down the order, you find Lando Norris's name, And Oscar Piastri is like one either side. He's either one above or one behind. And they're very, very closely compact, the two McLarens. And we'll have to see in this last 12 minutes. Aston Martin will lead every safety car restart. Sorry, I just got well distracted. Aston Martin will lead every safety car restart. Track should be green. Green light goes. 11 minutes and 30 seconds to go. Charles Leclerc out on track. Max Verstappen actually, came out first. I missed Max Verstappen completely. Came out like a bullet. Was out well before everybody else was Max Verstappen. Charles Leclerc then out second. Lando Norris, Carlos Sainz, and Oscar Piastri first to be out on track. So we're just looking for the Mercedes and the Alpines and Sergio Perez. I say that Esteban Ocon has just come out of the pits, and I imagine Pierre Gasly just behind. Oscar doesn't look confident, or maybe set up. He's a bit far back. He just... I say this after we just had Qatar where he won the sprint, but I do feel like sometimes for the rookies in particular, it's kind of tough, like the sprint weekends, because you haven't got very long at all in free practice to try and learn the tracks. And I know that they've driven on the Austin track before, but well, again, like Qatar really works against this, because I was going to say, like, especially tracks they haven't driven before, but Oscar Piastri is just a phenom. Like, he'd never driven Qatar before, and then he comes out and wins the sprint race, which completely gets rid of all of what I'm about to say. But it does feel harsh or harder on the rookies to learn these sprint tracks so quickly. Lewis Hamilton out on track then. George Russell also. And Lewis Hamilton out last. So Max Verstappen now starting his flying lap. I'll quickly just show you the track map so you can see what I mean. Come on. Okay. So Verstappen across the line first. Charles Leclerc just behind. Lando Norris is going to be third across the line. Carlos Sainz also finding a little bit of space. Piastri then. Ocon and Gasly together. Russell separated from Hamilton by Sergio Perez in the middle there. So Hamilton is going to be last across the line in terms of these first flying laps, is what I wanted to say. Max Verstappen through the first sector, and purple, as you'd imagine, being the first driver to complete that first sector. Although that is the fastest first sector we've seen of anybody today. So actually purple in the first sector as well from Max Verstappen. Everybody on a fresh set of tyres. Oh, no. Sorry. Lando Norris and Ocon and Russell on used sets. Oh, and Piastri. And Piastri on a used set as well. So Verstappen then through the middle sector as well. A 38.3 from Verstappen. Still not vintage Verstappen through the middle sector. He's done better through the middle sector earlier on in Q2. But still very quick indeed. Charles Leclerc goes actually a little bit quicker than Max Verstappen. Sets the second fastest Sector 2 lap time that we've seen Charles Leclerc. And goes purple for this session in particular. Ooh, only just kept it on the track, Max Verstappen there as he comes across the line. A 1:35 dead sets the standard in the Red Bull. Charles Leclerc, though, just behind. We know Charles Leclerc, a qualifying specialist, if nothing else, in that Ferrari. Comes around the final corner. And a 1:34.8. There you go, a 10.5 over Max Verstappen, and jumps to the top of the leaderboard to Charles Leclerc. That is the quickest that we've seen so far. Lando Norris, 7/10 off Max Verstappen. Not at all quick. And though used tyres on Lando Norris's car, maybe just a little bit of a banker lap, although not a great banker lap. Carlos Sainz, 1:35.1 from Carlos Sainz, so just under a 10th behind Max Verstappen and 0.3 off of his teammate. Oscar Piastri is going to be next. A 1:35.7 as well. That McLaren just maybe not quite there yet. Although used tyres on both of the McLaren drivers' cars. Ocon and Gasly next then in the Alpines. Where are they going to slot themselves in? George Russell, Perez and Hamilton, of course, as I said, going to be last across the line in terms of these flying laps. Hamilton, though, has just gone quickest in the middle sector so far. And Gasly across the line goes fourth fastest, so it does outdo the McLaren's banker laps. And George Russell, 135.6. Oh, George Russell exceeding track limits. Sergio Perez, 135.5. Also not exceptional. Slower than Pierre Gasly, who finds himself on the second sector. Lewis Hamilton, though. Ooh, Lewis Hamilton, a 134.8. 0.05 of a second between Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc. 5 teams in the top 5. That is correct. No, sorry, 4 teams. For some reason, I thought Carlos Sainz was back at McLaren again. Oh, the beautiful days. 4 teams in the top 5. Sergio Perez then in 6th place. The banker laps just about good enough for McLaren in 7th and 8th. Ocon was a weird one. What happened to Ocon? Anything in particular happened to Ocon? I wasn't looking at the radios. Not sure. No, not sure. I think Max Verstappen talking to himself over the radio. Oh, his teammate, Sergio Perez. Is he talking about him or is he talking about Sergio? It's very tricky sometimes with Max Verstappen to know where his head's at. But George Russell, lap time deleted. Track limits at turn 9 for George Russell. That's a weird one. We usually see like turn 12. But turn 9... Where is turn 9? It's like the end of the S's, right? Yeah, a weird one from George Russell. 5 minutes to go then. This is our current top 10. If there's a red flag or an incident, this might be the top 10 as it stands. But everybody is going to come back in and have a go once again. Needs to get his head in the game. Keep up with Lewis. Not a great banker lap from George Russell. Deleted, unfortunately, for him. But he was on a used set of tyres, was George Russell. Fresh tyres from Leclerc, Hamilton, Verstappen and Sainz. And Gasly and Perez. So, kind of shows the difference there between the fresh tyres and the used tyres, doesn't it? 6 drivers on fresh tyres. And they're the 6 fastest. 4 drivers on used tyres and they're the 4 slowest. Just shows how important having the tyres in the perfect window is for these guys and their lap times. Here we are then, 4 minutes to go. And they're going out already. Wow. Thought we'd be waiting until kind of the 3-minute margin. But no, 4 minutes on the clock. Here's that replay from George Russell then. Oh, it's very close from George Russell. Very close indeed. That is literally like millimeters over the white line. But unfortunately, they'll have looked at the footage, they'll have seen the tyre cross the white line entirely, and that's taken away from George. Classic Lewis pushing. Best driver of all time. Well, definitely. 2nd fastest so far today. Looks very, very quick. Very, very quick. Here we go then. Charles Leclerc, Lando Norris, Carlos Sainz already out. So again, I'll give you kind of a little rundown of the drivers in the order that they're going to come across the line. So Charles Leclerc, you can see there just coming to the hairpin, is going to be first again across the line. Lando Norris and Carlos Sainz just behind. So the Ferraris again kind of setting the standard. Then we've got Max Verstappen in amongst it. Oscar Piastri is going to be 5th across the line. So Piastri is going to be right in the middle of the pack. The 2 Alpines, Ocon first and Gasly just behind him. And we're yet to see Sergio Perez. There he is. And it's going to be Hamilton and Russell across the line last. So it is going to be George Russell who will have the final opportunity to take the pole position. And actually, they've come out with 4 minutes to go because they are saying pretty slow opening laps. Charles Leclerc came out with around about 4 minutes, and he's just set a very, very slow out lap. He's not even getting towards the final couple of corners yet. There he is, around turn 19. So Charles Leclerc is going to be first across the line, set the standard once again. Currently on provisional pole is Charles Leclerc. Can he hold onto it in another 1 minute and 40 seconds time? So Leclerc then, starting his final flying lap. He won't take the checkered flag, but it'll be near enough. And he won't get another lap. So this is it then. As I said, Leclerc will finish his flying lap first, and George Russell will be last across the line. Max Verstappen will actually be fourth across the line in all of this. So let's see what we can do. Max Verstappen actually just starting his flying lap. So it is Leclerc, Norris. Ooh. And a little bit wide at turn 1 from Verstappen. Took a little bit too much up the hill. Through the S's. Little puff of smoke. Yeah, not a great first sector from Verstappen at all. In fact, slower than his best. So a yellow first sector from Verstappen. Not what he'd have wanted to see. Charles Leclerc, though, going quick in the first and second sectors for Ferrari. Looking very good indeed. Gasly and Ocon just across the line. Hamilton and Russell are just coming around the final couple of corners. So Charles Leclerc is just going to come around. There is turn 19 for Charles Leclerc and turn 20. So he's going to set the standard. What is it going to be from Charles Leclerc? Does he improve? Yes. A 134.7 is the target for everybody. Not the best final sector from Charles Leclerc that we've seen. Lando Norris, a 134.8. So about a tenth off the Ferrari, and a really good lap from Lando Norris. Max Verstappen has gone a little bit better in the middle sector. Oh, and he's gone off the track. That is it then. So Max Verstappen is going to improve, but that is going to be a track limits infringement, I think, for Max Verstappen. Goes on to provisional pole, but it looked like he was off the track there. Anyway, we'll come back to that in a moment, because Oscar Piastri is also coming around the final corner, and we're seeing Ocon and Gasly going through the middle sector as well. Piastri, 35.4 for Piastri. Not good enough to be in front of Gasly, and Gasly's still to come. Esteban Ocon will want to improve, though. He's in 9th place, does improve, goes into 6th for 135.1. Max Verstappen is dropped out and into 5th place for Max Verstappen. Then it did look like that lap time was going to be deleted, and it has. Lewis Hamilton really poor through the middle sector as Lewis Hamilton. Not really looking like a pole lap from him unless he puts in an absolutely sublime final sector from Lewis Hamilton. But let's see then. Can he come across the line? And no, stays 3rd fastest, improves, but is beaten out by Lando Norris by 9 thousandths of a second. George Russell's going to be the last man across the line, and it's 5th fastest from George Russell. So Charles Leclerc take a bow. The Ferrari takes pole position. There's Giovinazzi with the Ferrari boys this weekend. Lovely to see him on the grid, and even lovelier to see Charles Leclerc back where he belongs, really. Such a pole position merchant is Charles Leclerc. First for him, Lando Norris in 2nd. Lewis Hamilton takes 3rd place. Carlos Sainz in 4th. Then it's Russell in 5th with Max Verstappen. That final lap time deleted. He wasn't happy with his first lap time either. Whether he was annoyed with himself or Sergio Perez, yet to be found out. But Max Verstappen, track limits, it turned 19. Oh, it's minimal. It's really, really minimal. It's 10 centimeters maybe at the max. Oh, yeah, Max would have known. He'd have felt that. He'd have felt that because he goes across the rumble there. Max Verstappen, 6th fastest. Gasly and Ocon can be very happy with that. 2 Alpines in the points will start in 7th and 8th come Sunday, and a double points finish for them would put them above. Lance Stroll fans, look away. It would put both of the Alpines ahead of Lance Stroll in the driver's standings already with 4 races left to go. Sergio Perez in 9th place, even with Max Verstappen putting in a poor first lap and a deleted second lap. Sergio Perez still unable to be there. And then Oscar Piastri. A little bit of an off one for Oscar Piastri this weekend. Don't know whether he just couldn't quite find the gap that he was looking for, whether or not he just isn't quite clicking with the McLaren car. But as I said, you usually see Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri just behind. But Oscar Piastri starting from 10th place. A little bit for him to do come Sunday, but maybe we'll see the overtaking prowess of Oscar Piastri really come to fruition. But to round out qualifying for you, Charles Leclerc starts on pole position. Lando Norris beside him in 2nd place. Hamilton and Sainz will start on the 2nd row of the grid together in 3rd and 4th. We then have George Russell and the champion Max Verstappen in 6th. The 2 Alpines will start next to one another in 7th and 8th. Sergio Perez and Piastri in 9th and 10th, rounding out the point scoring positions. But obviously all to play for. And the guys behind, Yuki Tsunoda and Zhou Guanyu, will be looking to pounce into that top 10 come Sunday. Valtteri Bottas and Kevin Magnussen start 13th and 14th. Daniel Ricciardo just dropped out in Q2 in 15th place as well. Oh, sorry, just managed to get through into Q1. It was just about Nico Hülkenberg who got dropped out in Q1, though. 16th place for Nico Hülkenberg on the weekend, where Haas have brought these upgrades, 14th and 16th. They'll have maybe hoped for a little bit more, but maybe it's the race pace where they'll really come to life. And then Alonso and Albon in 17th and 18th, and Lance Stroll and Logan Sargent will start from the back of the pack. Thank you all so much for watching. If we could leave a like, as Jamie has said, thank you so much. Forza Ferrari indeed. Max deserves pole. I mean, it was a pole position lap, but it also was a track limits infringement. Wonderful qualifying session, a real mixed grid. We've got there 3 different teams in the first 3 slots. Sainz and Russell just behind, ready to go. The Red Bulls, a little bit of overtaking for Max Verstappen to do on Sunday. It'll be interesting to see how he does with all of that. But I want to say thank you once again. Appreciate you all stopping by. I'm going to disappear. I'm back live tomorrow for the sprint. I'm back live on Sunday for the race. I'm back live for everything this season. So don't you worry. Be back here. Subscribe if you're new. Leave a like. All that good stuff. And I'll see you soon. Thank you, Jamie. Thank you, Jamie, for everything. Goodbye. Enjoy. Do something good. If you're in the UK, probably go to bed. I'm probably just going to go to bed. And then everyone else,